Okay, Mark chapter number 6. And we will begin reading verse number 45. Now, it's not that my eyes are getting bad. It's the fact that this is a miracle Bible and it reduces the print, which makes me have to get closer to it. Verse number 45. And straightway he, meaning Jesus, constrained his disciples to get into the ship and to go to the other side before unto Bethsaida, while he sent away the people. And when he had sent them away, he departed into a mountain to pray. And when evening was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea. Now this is the Sea of Galilee. And he alone on the land. And he saw them toiling in rowing, with the rowers, with the oars, rather. For the wind was contrary unto them. And about the fourth watch, this is 3:00 in the morning of the night, he cometh unto them walking upon the sea, and would have passed them by. But when they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed that he had been a spirit, and cried out. For they all saw him, and were troubled. And immediately he talked with them, and said unto them, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And he went up unto them into the ship, and the wind ceased, and they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure, and wondered. This particular event took place in March of the year AD 29. The life of Jesus is amazing. In our Bible, we have 129 different events recorded about the life of Jesus. Those 129 events include his birth, his ministry, his parables, his preaching, his death and resurrection, ascension. 129 events. But the last verse of the book of John says that if the events of Jesus' life all of these events were recorded, then all the books in the entire world would not be able to contain it. That's right. That is thousands and multiply thousands of events that could have been recorded. We have 129. Why are these saved, these preserved, and the other thousands and multiplied thousands have somehow been destroyed, lost, or whatever? Well, I have my opinion on that. I feel that these 129 were preserved by God because he knew that these are the ones that we would need most to live in the 20th and 21st century. And so, of these 129 events, 111 of those are also recorded by non-biblical writers. Roman history, Roman historians, court recorders, recorders in the various courts in the land, Greek historians or whatever. 111 of those are recorded by non-biblical writers. And now that doesn't mean that it's inspired by the Holy Spirit. It just means that they were eyewitnesses to the events that are recorded in the Word of God. This particular event was recorded by a man by the name of Julius Gaius Septus. He was a Roman, and I'll tell more about that just in shortly. Jesus had fed the multitudes, and now he told his disciples to go to Bethsaida, the other side, and I'll meet you over there. The Sea of Galilee is in northern Israel, and it's kind of a egg-shaped arrangement, kind of like this on its on the sea, and this direction you're about 13 miles. In this direction, you're about 8 miles. This side is the Golan Heights, and from the shoreline up to the top of the Golan Heights is almost a straight shot up. On this side, you have small foothills that are near the shore, and then back over about 4 miles away, you have some larger mountains or some larger hills. Tiberias is located about right here, and Tiberias was being built at this time, and there was an area right here that was owned by Bethsaida, but Bethsaida was over here. And so there was a fishing village, and then this was a fish cleaning area. And so they were owned by one another, or this was owned by this. Capernaum was about right here. Magdala, approximately right here. And so the multitudes being fed by Jesus happened in this area right here. And so what Jesus told his disciples is to get into the ship and go over to Bethsaida, and I'll meet you over there. But the plans that they expected didn't turn out the way that they wanted. Now, the Sea of Galilee was quite unique, and it was a body of water unlike any other bodies of water in the entire world because of a natural catastrophe that took place in that Sea of Galilee. So I'm going to draw, and I'll be cutting through the Sea of Galilee, and we'll look at it from that. The water line of the Sea of Galilee, and then this is the floor of the Sea of Galilee. Like that. This would be on the shoreline Tiberias, with the small hills here, and then with the large mountains about 4 miles from the shore. And on this side, you have the eastern shore almost right straight up, like this, with the Golan Heights over here. Now, this portion of the depth is about 3 feet deep, and this is called the shore. And then it gradually goes down. So this is the shore. And then it gradually increases from a depth of about 3 feet to about 30 feet on both sides. And this area on both sides is called the deep. And so you have the shore and the deep. And then out about plus or minus about 1 mile, all of a sudden, the bottom falls out of this lake. And the depth is approximately, at one time, about 300 feet. Now it's about 170 feet. And so, but at this time, was about 300 feet deep. Now, the Sea of Galilee was created by the rifting of the Jordan River Valley. And so when all of this underground lava and volcanic activity hit that region and ripped the land apart, then the Sea of Galilee was ripped apart with it. And then over the years, when the water came down off the mountains, then it filled it up and became the Sea of Galilee. Now, the interesting part of this lake is that it still sits on this molten lava. And there is a kind of like a river of molten lava underneath. So you have a kind of like an underground volcano that is there. And at the very bottom, there's a crust and this crust is about 6 feet thick. And this crust of cured lava, of rock lava, actually protects the Sea of Galilee. And so that little area of stone protects the molten lava from coming up and destroying the fish and everything else that's in the sea. Now, every now and then, there's an event that takes place. It cannot be predicted. It has never been able to be predicted. Sometimes this event takes place 3 days in a row. Other times, it takes place this day and not again for 100 years. Sometimes it takes place this month, next month, and then not again for 300 years. And this event is so unpredictable that it's kind of scary, so to speak. But what happens is that the pressure builds up, and all of a sudden, with no warning, the rock breaks open, and this huge gas bubble comes up through the depths. And fish that normally are in this area, I mean, they go nuts, and they go like crazy into the shallower areas right here, and into the deep and into the shore. And it's quite unique because once this huge bubble hits the surface, it goes straight up, pushing the cold air out from the lake. But then what happens is this air hits the mountains and comes back down like this, and hits the center of the Sea of Galilee with the most tremendous storm you could possibly think of. The wind hits the center of the lake at gale force, 70, 80, 100 miles an hour. If you have a ship or a boat or anything else in the middle of the lake when it happens, then you go down. Probably within about 5 minutes, you sink, and everything with you sinks. Now, if this area protects this area. So if you're fishing over here, or over here, or here, and here, you're not affected. There's nothing happens to you there. Now, you can see what's happening over in the middle of the lake, but it doesn't affect you because you're protected. And if you happen to be fishing in the deep, when this particular thing happens, there have been examples and people gave testimonies to the fact that they got their entire year's quota of fish within a matter of 2 or 3 minutes. There's that many. In fact, one of the fish stories is that guys say, "Hey, we walked on the back of the fish all the way to the shore." That type of thing. But if you happen to be there, then you become rich overnight or within minutes. But if you're in the center, regardless of how large the ship, then you go down. You go down very, very quickly. Jesus told his disciples to go to the other side. Now, you remember what the Word of God says, that he looked out and he saw them struggling with the oars? Remember that? Yes. Well, fishing boats on the Sea of Galilee did not have oars. They had sails. And this particular ship is called a ship. It wasn't a boat. This is what normally ran across the Sea of Galilee was Roman transports. The Roman 10th Legion was on the east side of the Sea of Galilee. The Roman 7th Legion was on this side, the Tiberias side. And regularly they would go back and forth across the sea to bring supplies and that type of thing to one another. And if there was room on the transport that was being taken over to one side or the other, then you could book passage on that, and people did that quite often. Now, the last recorded time that had this type of difficulty with this natural phenomenon took place on June the 7th, 1967. I just happened to be in the middle of the 6-day war. Okay? And what had happened is that the Syrians had loaded 2 transports, and they were coming across the Sea of Galilee to spring an attack on the Israeli army that was in Tiberias. When they got to the middle of the Sea of Galilee, this thing hit. And the Syrian transports filled with soldiers went right to the bottom. And that's the last time that we are recorded that happened. And so Jesus told his disciples, okay, get in. In fact, he said he could strain them. In other words, he says, I'll be very displeased if you don't do this. Do it. And so he told them to get into the ship and go to the other side of Bethsaida. And he said, I'll go up into the mountains to pray. Now, it says that when they got into the middle of in the midst of the lake, or the middle of the lake, that Jesus saw them. Now, from these small foothills, you can't see into the middle of the Sea of Galilee. In order to see into the middle of the Sea of Galilee, you have to get up into the higher foothills. And so this distance here is approximately from the center of the lake to the mountains high enough for you can see what's going on. It's about 4 miles. Now, Jesus is here. They were here when this hit. And so if logic was to rule in this situation, this ship, this Roman transport in which they booked passage on, would be long sunk by the time Jesus got there. Plus, he was here and he saw down there. Most of you that perhaps do not wear glasses, you probably have good eyesight. Can you see 4 miles away? I mean, even from the top of a mountain and seeing 4 miles away, you may be able to see a car. I don't know. But could you identify the people in the car? No, sir. Well, Jesus was at least 4 miles away, and he looked down and was able to pick out the ship that his disciples were on from that time away, from that distance away, picked it out from all the other ships that were there. And not only that, but to see them struggling with the oars. Now, when this thing hits, you probably have 5 minutes or less before the ship goes down. And 100% of the time, that is the case. So now, here are the disciples, right here. You can imagine how they felt. Jesus, you commanded us to do this. You told us, you directed us, you led us to do this. Now, where are you? We know that you're up there someplace. But it's 3 o'clock in the morning, pitch black. Okay? Jesus, we know that you're up there, but where you're located, we don't know. If you were with us, then we know that you could do something about it. You've done it before. You've calmed the storm. If you were with us, we know you could do it. We would feel at peace. Our hearts would be calm. But where are you now? When we need you the most, when we need you desperately right now, where are you? Now, at that time, there was a seafaring legend that says that if a person is going to die that night in a shipwreck or be drowned that night, then someone will appear to them who has already died in the sea, floating on the surface of the water. Now, in the entire history of the world at that point, there had never been any record of anyone walking on water, not even in mythology. I mean, we have Moses parting the water, right? Elijah and Elisha the same. Joshua brought water up on one side, but not in Greek mythology, Roman mythology, Persian mythology, or actual fact had it ever been recorded that anyone can walk on water. I mean, it was so unbelievable that you couldn't even imagine it in fairy tales. And so consequently, when these disciples in this ship going down saw Jesus walking on the water, what do you think they thought? Somehow Jesus had rented a boat and come out to get them, and he died. He drowned. But I tell you, if I was a boat owner, I would not rent a boat to anyone who wanted to go out there in the middle of this storm. And so how did Jesus get there so quickly before this ship went down? That's question number 750 I'm going to ask him when I get up there. Because the only explanation we have is that because he is who he is. But the disciples looked up and they saw Jesus walking on the water. They were terrified because they just knew that it was a spirit. Jesus had drowned. He was dead. And his spirit was coming to warn them that they were going to die also. This was a Roman transport. This Roman transport was under the authority of the Roman military, and it was under the authority of a particular centurion who was there to direct the soldiers and be responsible for the ship. This centurion's name was Julius Gaius Septus. He was an eyewitness to this great miracle because he was in charge of the ship that day. His men were on it, the same ship the disciples were on. And this Roman centurion became an eyewitness to one of the greatest miracles that ever took place. He wrote about it. It was read to the Roman Senate, and he became a believer in Jesus as a result of it. These records are on file now at the Vatican II Library. You can read them, and they are fascinating to read, to say the least. But he was an eyewitness. Now, Jesus came to them. He said, "It's me, don't be afraid." He didn't calm the storm until he got in the boat. And once he got in the boat or in the ship, then things were calm, just like Jesus always does. But when you look at everything that happened here, I mean, you're talking about an impossible situation, okay? A situation that's 100% disaster and death. But Jesus made a difference. Now, in our lives, he does the same for us. You know, perhaps you are in a situation where it seems like everything's going wrong, and you pray to the Lord and you say, "I'm doing exactly what you asked me to do. I'm fulfilling the obligation that I need to go do by fulfilling your direction. You led me this way. And now I'm in the middle of a storm that's going to bring me down. Where are you?" I pray and nothing happens. Read the word and it's like I'm reading nothing. Where is that assurance in my heart that you're going to do something about this? Is this it? Is this it? Jesus never promised you and me, all of us, he never promised that the storm was going to go away. He never promised that we wouldn't have storms. You know, what I would say if I was one of these disciples as in here, first of all, I'd say, Lord, why did you do this to begin with? Why didn't you just come with us? Why did you have to go up there and pray and send us away? And you probably knew the storm was going to happen. So why'd you do it? That would be my first thought. Second, I would say, how are you going to get here in time to save me? To save this situation? I needed you at 8 o'clock this morning. Now it's 8 o'clock at night. And you're not here. Where are you? But he does know what he's doing. Because let me give you a guarantee. You may not hear from him during the midst of these problems. You may not think that he's anywhere around. You may not believe that he can come to your rescue. But one thing's certain. He never takes his eyes off of you. He knows exactly where you are. He knows exactly the struggles that you're going through. He knows exactly what caused it. And he knows exactly how you feel in the midst of it. And one thing is certain, even if he has to totally reverse the laws of nature and do something for you that has never, ever been done before in all of history, he'll do it. Amen. Because he loves you. Especially if he's the one that sent you that direction to begin with. Maybe there's some of you are wondering about your ministry, whether you should continue with it, whether you should go a certain direction. Perhaps some of you may be toying with the idea that you feel God has called you into missions. We're certainly can be sympathetic to that. Or called you into a pastoral ministry, into music, into youth, into caring, giving homeless people places to stay, feeding the hungry, whatever the case may be. If he has led you there, then he will come to your rescue. Even if he has to move all of the powers of the universe to do it.